smaller.
Right. That's the bottom.
Okay, so watch when it hits and starts wedging. Look at the waveform getting smaller. Do you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, it's going to get even smaller when it wedges up in that capillary. And that's why some places call this the pulmonary artery capillary pressure. Right now they're deflating the balloon because can you keep it wet?
No.
What's the danger in that?
Killing.
Can you infarct them?
Yes.
Yes. So I said, what's the safety in that? Do you think that's on NCLEX?
Mm-hmm.
Is that on NCLEX?
Yes.
Oh, it's on NCLEX. And I'm going to tell you, does it happen that we wedge that balloon and it gets stuck? Oh, yeah. So what do we do? You can't freak out. That's what my husband said on interstate. Do not freak out. You must maintain control of your vehicle. Do not jerk. Do not freak out. So I'm telling you in the ICU, when your wedge won't unwedge, do not freak out. Here's what you do. You have the most common sense of anybody I've ever taught. She said, move them around. And that's right.
Okay, well, welcome to another Big Crap video. We're going to talk about vasopressors today. So vasopressors are those very short-acting medications that we give via an IV.
Okay. So we change their position. We have them cough. Okay? And we pray. And it doesn't happen often, but it does happen. Okay? And it is a risk. So I just said this line is risky. Okay? It's not that much of a risk. I told you don't have as much. But there are some dangers or what we call complications with invasive things. I want to tell you a story. Okay. Here's an actual swan, or pulmonary artery catheter, as old as Methuselah. I'm sorry. And if you don't know who Methuselah is, I'm sorry too. She's old. And so I had this catheter, and I was so proud of it when I first started here. The ICU gave it to me. And you see, it has this little special syringe that is hooked to this red cord. Red is never good. Red is stop sign. I hate stop signs. And I passed it around the classroom because I thought that would be a really good thing to do. And my students said, oh, that is so cool. Look, that balloon blow up when I do this. And they kept playing with it, and they kept playing with it until what did they do to my balloon?
Popped it.
They busted my balloon. You know how hard one of these is to get a hold of? Y'all, these are expensive. So just say, I can't show you the balloon because So now, with that being said, do you think as a nurse we could accidentally bust the balloon in the patient?
Mm-hmm.
And if you bust the balloon in the patient,
The doctor gonna be mad.
I ain't worried about the doctor. I'm worried that we might give the patient what's called an air
Embolism.
So is that a complication?
Yes.
Yes. So we only use the syringe that comes with the nerve catheter that has a safety that it doesn't allow any more air than the balloon can what?
Hold.
And then we don't sit here and wait back and forth. Right? Right. Okay, so air embolism can be a problem. All right. Another complication, probably the biggest threat to this catheter is the same threat to any central line. What is it? Infection. So when I say the most important thing you can do for any patient in a hospital, what is it? Wash your darn hands before you go and touch anywhere in a patient's room, anywhere on that patient, because you can pick germs up easily. Do you agree?
Yes.
Okay. And before you do anything with the sterile, what do you do first? Wash your hands. Okay. So that's a big concept. Star it, highlight it, and all that stuff. Okay, so the biggest threat to this catheter is infection. The other threats were
Air embolism.
What's the other big one that we don't
Get
like?
stuck.
what if you wedge it and then don't unwedge it and you leave it wedged?
They're gonna die of an MI.
You're gonna cause a pulmonary infarct, and you might just infarct your whole patient. Right? Okay. Not trying to scare you. So when I say the word proximal and distal, what am I talking about? So, all right, when I put my arm out,
Distal.
all right, where is the most, touch the most distal part of my arm? Right there. Good neuro check. Okay. Just saying. Now, don't tickle me, but touch the most proximal area of my arm. Okay. So on this line, you have, and I will let, who's got a big mouth and can talk loud?
Kelsey. Eric. It's a tie. Eric and Kelsey.
I didn't think I would get that much of a response. Do you have good eyes? Yeah. Do you have some mouth? Okay, you gotta say it loud.
PA distal.
All right, so the yellow port is called PA distal. So on this line, there's holes going down this line, which are ports. It's like little tunnels in this line. So the yellow port is PA distal. So the one that reaches the farthest inside the heart. And where does it terminate? It's a PA catheter. Where does it terminate?
Pulmonary artery.
So now, so the PA distal port or tunnel inside this line, guess where it comes out at? The very tip. PA distal. Do you really think you need to be infusing irritating medicines through a PA distal port?
Mm-hmm.
What will you ruin? The heart. How y'all like that? It sounds like my grandma too. You'll ruin it. All right, but you understand me, don't you? Okay. So the PA distal port, where does it exit out at? All right. Who else? Well, I'll just stick with you. Okay, your vision.
CVP proximal.
CVP proximal. All right. So when this thing travels, and this end is in the pulmonary artery, there's a hole up here, proximal, and that little hole says, I'm peeping right into your right atrium. Everything that you put through my tunnel, where does it go or open up to? Right atrium. All right, are you getting it? So where's that located? The right atrium. Now, it wouldn't be so bad if you give some medicine there, because you give regular medicine through this regular central line and it terminates right above there, right? Now, we don't want to give anything real toxic like some of those vasoactive drugs we were talking about, but in an emergency, we might have 15 lines going and we might need it. So if we want to give a little fluids through it, we probably could. Or medicines through it, okay. It ain't nothing against that, right? Y'all with me? Y'all want me to test him some more? All right, so the red one is stop. You could kill him. So this is the balloon port. You with me? All right, and they make these, even though there's updated models, and they might have 3 or 4 more lines. Just saying, according to what car you buy, you know, it's a Mercedes or it's a Cadillac. Just saying what brand. So, let's see how good you are. I'm good. Okay. Or my social life.
Pacing.
All right. So the clear one says pacing. So if my patient took a bunch of calcium channel blockers, beta blockers, digoxin, and they're old and they forgot, they took them 3 or 4 or 5 times. And so their heart rate's like 20. And we know that we can give them some Digivine to reverse the dig. And we can give some other medicines to get all those other medicines out of them, but it's going to take a little while to make that happen. We don't want to put a permanent pacemaker in somebody, do we? If they don't need it. But they need to be paced. And it hurts if you put it all outside the skin, and we can only keep that for a little short period of time. So if they had this catheter, could we thread the patient wires through here? Is there any nerve endings inside your blood vessels? y'all often should say no very hard because you would feel your blood pumping all the way through your body and probably be a little crazy if you did. So it doesn't hurt to paste through here. So that would be a nice thing
Paste
to do.
a little clear.
All right, so, let me see. What's the yellow one? I asked you what the yellow one was.
PA distal. Distal.
Okay, the blue one?
CPP proximal.
The clear one is?
Pasting.
What the heck?
Stop. Oh. No. You said, I seen red.
All right, this is called a thermistor port. And the thermistor port gives you cardiac output readings. And we can actually we can measure this, and I'm gonna show you, so don't freak out. Who cares? What does a thermistor port give you? Cardiac output. You with me? That's all you need to know, and I'm gonna show it to you. It's really cool. I got some cool stuff for you to do. So you saw, so far you've seen the catheter go through, didn't you? All right? So now let's look at how an ER nurse sets this line up. This is what the nurse does, okay? We can critique him. And the same pressure system.
Locate all the equipment that you will need for the pressure setup in your safe coverage. You'll need a 500 cc saline bag, a pressure bag, the monitor cable, and the actual art liner CVP setup. Okay, we have all our components here ready to go. I'm just going to put the monitor cable away here for a second and open up my IV bag. It's 500 cc saline. This is our pressure setup, and you can actually use this for both CVP or art line. There's actually a sticker in there you can put that signifies that. That's the transducer in the center. This is the connector where you'll actually hook up your cable that goes to the monitor. There's a zero port, the white port there. Change to zero your line. And there's a secondary stopcock there, and if you have an art line, you can actually draw some blood out of it. They'll do that in the ICU usually. And of course, this is your drip chamber. It's important to get all the air out of your 500 cc saline bag. So you should spike it and then just burp the bag, get all the air out of it, and then just re-spike it. So we want to put the saline bag on a pressure bag or a Fenwal pump. I want to put the stopcock to the open air part to block that off. So it allows to pump this bag up to 300 psi. This will allow the system to have a constant 3 cc per hour fluid drip that will keep our line open. Just so you know that there are different setups for a femoral line, and those actually go at 6 cc's, but the ones we have are 3 cc's. And if you have problems pumping it up, you might have turned it the wrong way. You'll notice that it's ready to go when you see the green in your pressure column there. Okay, we'll go ahead and hang our bag on an IV bowl. We need to flush the system. So I'm going to turn the stopcock off to the patient, which is on the right of this picture. I'm going to pull a little flush rubber piece there, and you can actually see fluid coming out of the three-way stopcock. Once it's out of there, it's nice, all the air is out. I'm going to go ahead and close it off. I'm going to continue flushing down the line to the second stopcock nearest to the patient. I'm going to turn that one off to the patient as well, and go ahead and get that line totally flushed and primed. And then close both of them off and make sure and flush all the way down towards the end so it'll be ready for the patient. This is the connector to the monitor cable. It can only go one way. I'll go ahead and plug that in. I'll take the other end and plug it into the far left module. That's the one that corresponds to the art line on our monitors. If the art line is not on, it'll actually turn that section on automatically. If you shake it around, you can actually, the transistor, you can actually see the tracing. You know it's working.
I do that, y'all.
So to zero your art or CVP line, you'll turn the stopper off to the patient. That's to the right there. And then you'll open up this stopcock and you'll go push zero on the monitor. And then you'll choose which one CVP or arc line. It'll make a set of 2 beeps, a few seconds apart. That'll tell you it's 0. Close the stopcock off to air, put your cap back on. And you want to give it a couple of good flushes. By now, you'll be able to actually see a good waveform. Here's a close-up, push 0. And then it gives you a choice, 0 AVP or CVP. And I'm going to do arterial blood pressure. It'll make the 2 beeps. And after the second beep, it tells me I'm ready to go. Of course, when we're zeroing, the transducer needs to be at the phlebistatic axis. It's the intersection between the mid-axillary line and the nipple line. And that's actually where we want to zero and keep our transducer. If it's higher, actually it'll show a lower pressure. And if the transducer is actually lower after it's zero, it actually show a higher pressure. So we want to make sure that that's secure. And I'll get a good reading.
All right, so relax. You do not have to know how to do that. What are the main points of this? The main points of this are that you have to have, it's a high pressure system. And so in order to keep fluid, to keep it open, you have to have a pressure bag hooked to your fluids, okay? And that will keep it open. 300 PSI, ooh, I put my hand in here instead of a bag. Y'all, I'll recommend it. I'm cutting the circulation off my hand. But y'all can play with these. The instructions are on them, so you can't really screw it up, like which way to turn the stopcock. But when it gets to 300 PSI, a little green thing will come up and it'll say 300. You're going to be shocked how much pressure you have to put on this to get it to 300 PSI, okay?
You can hook it up to the oxygen well, put it on.
No, you haven't, you should not. It's good exercise for us women to do this. So, okay, so we'll pass these around. Both of these are like different companies. And when Haley saw them, she come from ICU, she goes, where did you get that? That is like brilliant with that little thing to stick your fluids on. The hook, I said, that will cost more, you won't have that.
Yeah.
And so you just might as well get used to this one. Everything is cost savings initiative. So what should you pump your pressure bag up to, so you know?
300 cc.
300 PSI. You need to know
PSI.
that. You need to know that you need a pressure bag. You need to know that you have a monitoring system. And that there's a special tubing that you have to prime. That's part of the nurse's job. Now, did you notice there's different like cartridges that go into that monitor? Did y'all notice that? Well, you're going to have one for CVP. You're going to have one for A-line because are those 2 separate lines?
Yes.
Yes. And so you got to know that. So you need a monitor. Do you need special tubing? Do you need fluids?
Yes.
Do they need to be pressurized?
Yes.
Do you need an informed consent before this catheter is placed?
Yes.
Yes. Do you give or get informed consent?
No.
All right. Do you witness a signature?
Yes.
Do you make sure it's on the chart?
Yes.
Very good. So now, are you getting comfortable with that? Now, watch, because if you walked into the ICU, you might have seen some patients who were restrained. But it wasn't because they have these special lines, okay? It was for other reasons. Because you can have this line if you just have bad heart failure. It doesn't mean you're crazy, right? So we don't restrain patients who have these lines in general. But we will restrain them if they're crazy as heck and trying to pull everything out. But if an NCLEX question asks you, is that routine?
No.
No. Now, national patient safety goals, things that overall in a hospital we do to keep people safe, and if God knows any creditor asks you, do you silence alarms? And you
No.
ask Jesus for forgiveness. And you say, no, sir, never. No. And he's like, you're fixing to get struck by lightning. You say, only if I'm standing right there managing something, to be quite honest with you, but I would never. But the answer on NCLEX, do you silence any alarms?
No.
No. All right. So get used to it. That bag will be coming around. I always put a sterile dressing change kit to show you because does this line require sterility?
Yes.
Yes, that's why I don't forget to.
Does the patient have to wear a mask when those get put in? We have to get them last.
It's just like they have a drape over them. Most of the time they're doing it right here, and I'm gonna show you a picture of what one in the real world looks like, because my swan is missing something. And I got kind of caught when I realized the student didn't know, and I felt embarrassed. So I'm not gonna let y'all embarrass me. Okay. And it was my fault. Okay, I felt like it was. Might have been. I take everything about y'all personal, so you have to do well and look good. Okay. Let me show you something. I'm gonna show you like mine. Hold on. I want to say something. You don't have this. Okay. Do y'all see this picture of the catheter right here? Do y'all see it has a sheath over it? That helps keep it, the line sterile and all the hands touching it. And so mine doesn't have that. This is a cute little, I don't know if you can see it all that good, but this is what your monitor is going to look like. Do y'all see that there's a blood pressure of 92/53 with a MAP of 65? Your MAP has to be at least what for your basal organ? 60. Okay, do you see in yellow the 43/29? That is your PAP. So what is that supposed to be normal? You've got one number in common, systolic and diastolic. So it's 15 to 26 systolic, and it's what diastolic?
5:15.
Okay, and what is this one?
High.
What side of the heart is that? The PAP telling you about.
Right.
It's the left side.
No, left side.
PAP
CVP
and
is right.
pulse are left-sided heart pressure. Okay? So what kind of heart failure or high pressure are we looking at? Left. Okay, then hold on. If you look under, there's a blue, y'all see, there's something in blue with parentheses right up under that 43/29. And I'm telling you that says CVP. There's a 44 CVP, dear Lord. What is normal?
2 to 6.
Oh crap. What's the problem there? Right side of what?
A heart failure.
Or an extreme amount of something, pressure, causing an extreme stretch, which is typically what? Volume. Okay. So if you had this picture on Eclipse, and you could see it up close, and it said their PAP is 43/29, and their CVP is 44, and here are your options. What correlates with it? Is it left failure, right failure, or biventricular failure?
Biventricular.
Biventricular, because both the right side is high, and the left side is high. Now, what if, take the CVP number out of the equation, and all you get is the PAP, and you have those same options.
Biventricular.
Left.
Oh,
Does that make
sense?
Okay. All right. Very, very, very good.
If you haven't looked at it, you have
Okay,
to
so now let me show you
right.
another, the reason I pulled this up was to show you a neck. And this is a neck. All right, this is a neck. All right, that's the head up there. You see? All right, and this is his neck, or her neck. And do you see this thing, do you see the tubing with the blood going down? That is actually called a cordis. A cordis, a cordis. And it's like a little sheath that they will feed the swan through. so that when the patient no longer needs all those measurements and we pull it, we still need central access, don't we, a lot of times with these sick patients. Central, you don't want them to take your IV out, right? Well, you sure don't want them to take the central line out if the patient's sick. So we can actually pull the swan out of that and we still got an awesome what? Central line. So with that being said, where we give most of the meds is that line right there, side sheath for infusion of fluid. So a lot of the meds that we give, especially anything toxic or whatever, we give it through that. And so I had my student one time in the ICU and they were like, "You want to pull the swan?" I said, "We do." And I said, we gonna all do this together. And the student. And so I was like, wait a minute. And the woman nurse started talking to my student about, okay, you know that you're leaving the cordis. And he said, the what? And I remembered, oops, I left that part out. And because it's not on your NCLEX and it's not testable, and y'all don't embarrass me. So when they ask you, they say you're gonna pull the swan and leave the cordis, you're pulling the swan out because the swan goes through where? The cordis. It actually hooks, you insert it right through there. And so it just pulls right out of there.
Okay.
And I'm only showing you that so you don't embarrass me. Okay. Not on your test. Okay. But it made me feel better, and that's very important. Just saying. Okay, one other thing. My time lady keep you. Okay. One other thing that Ms. Haley found that I liked, that you have got to see, because it'll freak out. Your job in here is not to know how to manage all these lines.
Now I'd like to cover the pulmonary artery catheter here a little bit. Basically, the distal tip of this pulmonary artery catheter is designed to sit in a pulmonary artery, so it can actually measure pulmonary artery pressure. In order to get this into a pulmonary artery, you have to start a central line with a central catheter that has an introducer port, and then you're going to insert the swan through the introducer port and guide it.
Cordis. Introducer port. Say hi, thank you. Oh, cordis.
Into the pulmonary artery. So the first question you're probably going to have is how does this actually get into the pulmonary artery? And what prevents this from coiling up like this in someone's atrial ventricle? And the answer is this balloon on the distal tip that I'm going to inflate here. This balloon acts kind of like a sail on a sailboat, because when this balloon is inflated, it follows the direction of the blood flow. And so, assuming that this catheter is not coiling up, the blood flow should guide this from the right atrium into the right ventricle and into the pulmonary artery. The second question that you may have is, how are you going to know whether this is truly in the pulmonary artery or whether it's coiled up? In other words, how do you know how far to advance this before stopping? And the answer there is that before starting, you simply just will hook up your Swan-Ganz catheter up here to a transducer tubing, and then you're going to have to watch how the waveform changes as the swan is guided through the heart. Because the right atrium, the right ventricle, and the pulmonary artery each have a distinct waveform. So if you keep advancing this, and all you see is a right ventricular waveform, you're most likely coiled up, and so you're going to need to deflate the balloon and pull back and try again. One thin black line there means 10 centimeters. So there's 10 centimeters, 20, 30, 40, and then a thick black line there means 50 centimeters. And it goes all the way actually up to 100 centimeters. The balloon port is this red port. And so if you want to inflate the balloon, you just connect your syringe to this red port and inflate. The yellow port is always called the PA distal port. And what this means, is this lumen here goes all the way to the distal tip of this catheter. The connection to this yellow port is you're going to connect transducer tubing, and the purpose of that is you're going to use that to monitor pulmonary artery pressure and wedge pressure. Now let's go to this blue port here. The lumen to this blue port is much more proximal than the distal lumen, so I can demonstrate this by connecting saline here. And if you follow it all the way over here, you're going to notice that saline comes out of that port right there. We connect transducer tubing to this blue port here, and we use that to monitor central venous pressure. The last port that I want to cover here is this clear port, and sometimes it's a white port. And this lumen is also proximal to the distal tip of the catheter, and it is roughly next to the CDP lumen. The purpose of the clear lumen, or the white lumen here, is for the connection of all of your cardiac infusion drugs. The last thing that I want to cover on this pulmonary artery catheter is this sterile contamination shield here. And sometimes it's pre-built onto the swan, but sometimes you actually have to put it on yourself. But basically, once the swan is in the right place, you bring this contamination shield all the way down to the hub of the cordis and attach, and that allows the portion of the pulmonary artery catheter that is hanging outside of the patient to remain sterile.
Okay, did that help at all?
Yes.
Okay. All right, sorry. Okay. So, oh God, Ms. Cooper, what do I?
Now I'd like to cover the pulmonary artery.
All right, so Ms. Cooper, what do I need to know? So here we go. Let's see what you know. All right, so here's what I did, thinking that y'all wouldn't know your norms, but I think you're starting to know them, so. I'll just- Okay. I just laid them out your norms, all right, that you need to know. It's a simple page, right? You know these, look at them. Do you know them?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see how well you know them. Here's your question. If they'll come up. They're like us on the phone. They had enough. It's not like it's all right, there's something I brought this scale for. We're gonna weigh all of you and I'm kidding. You guys don't care how much they weigh, do you? Come here. Come here, you're shaking your hand. What's this? Come on. Okay. All right. Show me. All right.
He goes to the gym.
Okay, now, it's very important. Me and my husband had this fight the other day. Okay, the new fancy scale, you know, the one that you just get on and it's glass and all that stuff, and you use the digital readout, well, the battery was low. And he was like, I'm down to like 2:0, 2:10, or I'm like, in your dreams. And so I said, go get my scale. And so this is one I haven't used in 20 years, but it works. And so he gets on it, and he says, I told you, so he stands on it. And there's a problem with the scale. Do you see it already?
Yes.
It's not balanced.
It's not zeroed. So these lines, if they're not zeroed, are they gonna give an accurate reading? No. So I had more fun zeroing my scales and getting him on it, and his 230 pounds, I had more fun. So when you get on this, tell them what it reads. Hop on it, if you're not embarrassed by it.
2.8.
No, it does not. Look.
That's 2.16.
I don't know if you can see that, because I can't. Okay. All right. Anyway. Like, all right. So to zero it, we got to make sure it's on the what?
0.
On the zero.
On -5.
Well, you see, it's right here. Oh,
There we go.
all right, so now you get on it. All right. And does it matter if that's on the carpet?
Yes.
All right, so do you see your readings can be off if you don't do what?
0.
So with these catheters and pressure systems, whether it's A-line or Swan, doesn't matter either one because it's all the same system, correct? To get an accurate reading every shift, what do we do?
0.
You zero them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now it's not a weight scale, but it is a pressure scale. And so what we're doing is negating atmospheric what? Pressure. All right. So you better get that right. Because I had to dig this thing out from I don't know where, but I did have fun getting my husband. Huh? Oh, you talking about transducer?
In the real world, you zero out the bed.
Well, you zero out the bed too for
Yeah,
weight.
you have to make sure like everything that's on it,
Right.
like put the remote on it.
Are you talking about the bed and weight?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not talking about weight. I'm talking about this transducer and this pressure system. So for you to get an accurate reading, all right, for you to get an accurate reading, what?
0 at the transducer.
Okay. And for safety, what are some things that we've got to do if you're the nurse caring for this patient? So, think safety, anything safety. Wash your hands. Sterile dressing changes. What else? What about wedging? You gotta make sure you what? Deflate the balloon after a couple of seconds. We usually let it go I've let it go as long as 6 seconds, and that was as long as 6 seconds. But anyway. All right, what else?
So re-inflate the balloon?
Oh, yes, honey. That is the ICU nurse. Wedges, and we do it it's according to what the patient's condition is, but about every hour, every 4 hours, you're wedging, getting a wedge pressure. Why? Because, let's talk about this. What if your patient, we have that patient, you talking about zeroing or wedging?
I'm talking about wedging.
Wedging.
Saying that it
Yeah.
sits in there the whole time?
No, baby, you wedge just for a couple of seconds, then deflate the balloon, and then the PA catheter.
No, I know, it just chills in there. And then you walk in and you're like, let me see what the WP is. You wedge it and then you
Yeah.
walk out?
No, baby, you wedge it and get the number, and then make sure the balloon, you deflate the balloon after you wedge it.
And then you're done.
And then you're done.
But it just stays in there the whole time?
Yes. Yes.
It's not like
It
a
lives there.
procedure?
No, honey, this swan lives there. That thing lives there for as long, just like a regular
I'm
central.
sorry. I was under the
Just like a regular, I'm glad you said that, because if you think that, there might be somebody else. So it's like a regular central line, but it's the Cadillac of central lines or Mercedes of central lines, and you have a change there. For as long as the patient needs it, or how sick they are. So let's talk about, why does the patient need it? And it's on that page, I typed all your dirty notes, but why? Why does the patient need this? Think about it. If you had that patient that had a PAP of what, 40 something, and they had a CVP of 44, and then they had a pulmonary artery pressure that's extremely high, would we be giving them something to try to get those lower? What can we give them?
To lower the blood pressure.
Huh? What can we do to lower the pressure? What's causing the high pressure? The volume's causing the high pressure, so we got too much fluid. So they are, what do you call that? Volemic. So if they're hypervolemic, what do we treat that with? Now you read it. So what's something else we can do to make the tank bigger? So we can get some vasodilators to cause the vessels to get bigger. Would that decrease the volume pouring into the heart? Yes. So we're giving them some kick butt meds, really high potency. And so we could actually go run another, wedge pressure and see where we're at on that left side of the heart. That would be a more accurate reading. And let the doctor know, how did the furosemide work? How did whatever drug, if we gave them a vasodilator, do we need to tweak it any? Do we need to back off some? Do you understand? Okay, so that's why you would do those wedges that also. We zero in every shift Or let's talk about this. This is my favorite thing that happened to me. It happened to me. And I told y'all, ICU just makes my little butthole like this, sorry. Now, I got pulled in there as a new nurse, no orientation. And so I'm trying to remember what I learned or didn't learn in school. And I got this like crash course. And I looked up and my, dear Lord, the CBT, was kind of normal. They were like, oh, it's a good patient, da da da. So I go out to the desk, and then I'm getting nervous. I go walk back with the monitor, and the CBT is like 15. And I was like, swear to God, that was just 3. And I thought, I'm not looking at that right. So I go closer, 15. Good patient, my butt. And so, anyway, they laughed. They said, look at your patient. Look at your patient. Because I'm nursing the monitor up here. I just want y'all to know, because that made me nervous. And the patient's all curled up in the bed. Does the where the patient's at matter?
Yes.
So what did I do after I freaked out? We straightened the patient up, checked all my lines, zeroed the line again, and guess what the reading was? 3. Didn't need to call nobody for no medicine, because I was ready to call, just saying. But did I need to call anybody? No. Did I need to reposition my patient?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, now I'm gonna ask you something. We're gonna see y'all with this. All right. Just lay it on the side. Where is the phlebostatic axis? It's the
Between the
level.
nipple line and the bottom of the rib, right?
All right, you ready? I love y'all. Okay, where's your right atrium?
My right side.
That's the level, the phlebostatic axis is the level of the right atrium. And that is, everybody do this.
Fourth intercostal space.
Now it's mid-axillary line. So it is from anterior to posterior. So I just say mid-axillary line, fourth intercostal space. Not to be confused with mid-clavicular line. So where, I'm asking you, because you gotta know this. Where is the phlebostatic axis located?
For intercostal space and midline axle line.
Mid-axillary line. Fourth. All right, so what's funny between the ER and the ICU? Y'all know the difference? I showed you an ER video, and the man freaking taped the transducer to the patient.
No, it's on a pole.
I know. I was like, dang, we don't do that. Just saying. We put them on a pole, and we have little holders in the ICU. So don't be taping your transducer to your patient because it's super showing you a video. And they'll make fun of me. So, all right. Where does it need to be? Tell me. You're studying, and you should be able to tell me.
Fourth intercostal mid-axillary. Phlebostatic axis.
The phlebostatic axis. Say it. Phlebostatic axis. And that is where?
Mid-axillary.
All right. Now, the position, when we decide that we're going to zero and position our transducer or get our readings on a patient, we all give reports to each other of what position, or they have a norm in their unit. And if they don't meet it, they say it in report. When I get their readings, I put them at 45 degrees. And if we can't put the patient at 45 degrees because they're a train wreck, we say, hey, when I get their readings, I put them this way. Why do we do that? Because we want the readings to all be what? The same. And does it make sense to you that one single reading is not what we're interested in? What are we looking at? Just like we do vital signs. Trends. Okay. Have you learned anything today?
Phlebostatic axis.
Phlebostatic axis. Okay, that's all that matters. Right. But y'all listen to your voiceover. If you get the chance, do some of the videos. I've got one on insertion that I thought was kind of cool in 6 minutes. You don't need it. All you need to know is how to set it up, how to keep it safe, and the stuff on your note page that I typed for you. Okay? That's all you need to know about phlebotomy. You don't have to know how to set one up. You don't have to know how to flush it. But if I am wasting my voice to tell you in here about CAP and POP and CBP and what side of the heart. Do you need that out? Yes. Absolutely. And I do have a little worksheet, so we'll run through those at the beginning of next lecture. And then we're going to start back on the PowerPoint, because cabbage is not going to take long. You'll be shocked how much you know about cabbage. You're not doing the freaking procedure. You're taking care of the patient. So don't ask me about all those different cabbages, because there's more than what's in your book. Which one are you tested on? Traditional. So don't be looking at all those in the book and reading those thinking you got to know them. Because there ain't enough time in the world to learn all that. Okay? Which one do you need to look at? High five, look at the nursing care, okay? All right, good job, guys.
I'll go with you, Mr.
Now let it begin.